There is a difference between a man wanting you and a man becoming deeply devoted to you. Attraction makes him look. Desire makes him pursue. Chemistry makes him think about you. But devotion does something much more serious. It makes him protect the connection. It makes your absence carry weight. It makes losing you feel different from simply losing access to another attractive woman. And contrary to what women are often taught, this does not happen because you become easier to love. It doesn't happen because you're endlessly accommodating, because you never argue, because you're always available, because you anticipate everything he needs. And it certainly doesn't happen because you become so perfect that he cannot find a flaw. In fact, sometimes the exact behavior women use to keep a man is the behavior that slowly weakens the thing that made him feel deeply drawn to her in the first place. You start editing. You lower your voice. You swallow the opinion. You hide how excited you really are. You pretend something doesn't bother you because you don't want to seem difficult. You become more understanding, more manageable, more predictable. And slowly, the woman he originally encountered disappears underneath the woman trying not to lose him. I've seen women do this after 20 years of marriage. I've seen women do it 3 months into dating. And the tragedy is that they usually do it out of love. They think, if I become easier to be with, he'll value me more. But a man can become comfortable with the woman who constantly accommodates him, while becoming deeply affected by the woman who remains fully herself in his presence. That's the trait we're talking about today. Self-possession. The ability to belong to yourself even while loving somebody else. A self-possessed woman doesn't need to dominate. She doesn't need to be cold. She doesn't walk around announcing her standards every 5 minutes. She can be soft, affectionate, warm, playful, deeply loving. But underneath all of it is one unmistakable message. Loving you will never require me to disappear. Men feel that, and through a Jungian lens, there is a reason it can become extraordinarily powerful. Jung believed that a man does not encounter a woman only as the person standing in front of him. His psyche also brings projections, longings, and an unconscious inner image of the feminine, what Jung called the anima. At first, a man may project enormous meaning onto a woman, but something much rarer can happen after projection. He begins seeing the real woman underneath the fantasy, and instead of becoming less fascinated, he becomes more devoted, because now you're no longer simply beautiful to him. You're psychologically real. You surprise him, challenge him, comfort him, disagree with him, see through him. You have an interior world he cannot completely possess. And strangely, that can be exactly what makes him want to protect the bond. So today, I want to show you what this feminine trait actually looks like. Why so many women accidentally suppress it once they fall in love. What happens inside a man when he encounters it, and the moment attraction crosses into something much deeper. Because devotion doesn't usually begin when a woman becomes perfect. It begins when a man realizes, there is a whole woman standing in front of me, and I do not want to lose access to who she truly is. Before we continue, I have one quick favor to ask. Please like this video so YouTube knows this content is valuable and can show it to more people. And subscribe so we don't disappear from your feed. Thank you for being here. Now let's keep going. And this is where many good women get trapped. You love him. So naturally you start learning him. His moods, his preferences, what makes him withdraw, what irritates him, what makes him feel loved. Nothing wrong with that. Knowing the person you love is part of intimacy. The problem begins when understanding him slowly becomes organizing yourself around him. He doesn't like conflict, so you stop bringing things up. He has a lot going on. so your needs can wait. He becomes distant when emotion gets intense, so you learn how to feel more quietly. He likes easygoing women, so suddenly you're easygoing about things that are actually hurting you. And one day you realize something unsettling. You know everything about how to keep him comfortable, but he barely knows the woman doing all that work. That's where attraction can become comfortable without becoming deeper. Because devotion requires contact with a person, not simply contact with excellent service. And women who have spent decades caring for everybody are especially vulnerable here. You've been the wife, mother, daughter, organizer, the woman who remembers the appointment, the birthday, the medicine. Who needs what? Who is upset with whom? You've become extraordinarily good at anticipating other people. Then you enter romance and accidentally turn love into another place where you're performing emotional labor. You become indispensable. But indispensable is not identical to adored. Read that again. A man can depend heavily on a woman he barely knows. He can appreciate everything she does, while slowly losing contact with who she is. Because the woman underneath the function disappeared. And sometimes she disappears so gradually, neither person notices. At the beginning, you had opinions. You laughed harder. You interrupted him because you were excited. You told him, "No, I completely disagree." You had plans he wasn't included in. Friends, interests, your own rhythms. There was something about you he couldn't completely predict, not because you were playing mysterious, because you were alive outside of him. Then the relationship became important. Fear entered, and fear whispered, "Don't risk it." So now you think before speaking. You evaluate his mood before bringing something up. You become more polished, more appropriate, and perhaps the relationship becomes smoother. But something else can become weaker. Your psychological presence. Because what originally affected him was not simply your kindness, it was the experience of encountering another whole human being. This is what self-possession protects. The self-possessed woman can care about his experience without making his experience the final authority over hers. If she's hurt, she can say, "That hurt me." She doesn't need to turn it into World War III. She also doesn't need to spend 40 minutes explaining why she's allowed to feel it. If she disagrees, "I don't see it that way." Simple. If she wants him, she can show desire without pretending she doesn't care. And if something doesn't work for her, she doesn't use femininity as an excuse to tolerate it indefinitely. That's what makes self-possession so compelling. There is softness without surrender of self. And a mature man feels the difference, because now he isn't interacting with a woman whose entire personality changes depending on whether he's pleased. He's meeting somebody, and being truly met is much more psychologically powerful than being endlessly accommodated, which leads to something even deeper. Because when a woman stops performing around a man, something strange often happens to him. He starts performing less, too. And this may be one of the most underestimated forms of intimacy between a man and a woman. A lot of men are performing too. You just don't always call it that. Competent, calm, strong, unbothered, in control, successful. Fine. Ask some men how they're doing while their entire emotional world is burning down and you'll get, "Good." That's not because men don't feel. Often they've simply spent years learning which feelings are safe to expose. Then a woman enters his life who isn't constantly managing how she appears. She laughs when something is genuinely funny. She gets excited about things that have nothing to do with impressing him. She says what she means. She can say, "I don't know." She can be moved without immediately apologizing for being emotional. She can be angry without becoming cruel. She can say, "I want you." without feeling that desire somehow lowers her value, and she can say no, without fearing that disagreement makes her unlovable. Something happens in a man's nervous system around that woman. He starts understanding, I don't have to perform every second either. That's bigger than attraction. A beautiful woman can make him want to impress her. A deeply self-possessed woman can make him want to stop pretending. That is a different level of intimacy. Maybe he's spent his whole adult life being the one who handles everything. Business, family, money, problems. Nobody asks how he's doing because everybody assumes he can handle it. Then one night, he's sitting beside you, and you don't interrogate him. You don't fix. You don't immediately tell him what he should do. You simply notice. You've been quieter than usual. He says, I'm fine. And instead of pushing, you look at him and say, okay, you don't have to be anything else with me tonight. That's it. You continue sitting there. And maybe 10 minutes later, he starts talking. Not because you extracted vulnerability from him, because you made performance unnecessary. Do you understand how rare that can feel? There are men who receive admiration everywhere, and emotional safety nowhere. And when he experiences both attraction and safety with the same woman, that combination can become extremely difficult to replace. This is where the idea of devotion gets more interesting. Because devotion isn't simply, I enjoy her. It's closer to, something about my life is different because she is in it. He begins protecting the relationship because the relationship protects access to a version of himself he doesn't experience everywhere. More open, more alive, more human. Maybe you've already experienced this without understanding what happened. A man tells you things he says he never talks about. He becomes softer around you. His voice changes. He begins asking what you think before making important decisions. Not because he has lost himself, because your perspective carries psychological weight. He wants to know that you're okay, not out of obligation, because disturbing the bond disturbs him. This is where desire begins changing form. He still wants your body, of course, but now he also wants your mind. Your approval begins mattering differently. Your disappointment lands differently. Your absence isn't merely sexual frustration, it changes the emotional atmosphere. And this is why genuine authenticity can be so disarming. The man isn't falling in love with a perfectly optimized feminine persona. He's encountering something he cannot manufacture elsewhere. Your particular way of being alive. That's what cannot be copied. Another woman may be beautiful, perhaps more conventionally beautiful. Another may cook better, earn more, be younger, be more agreeable. None of that automatically recreates a psychological experience, because human attachment is not a spreadsheet. We don't love people because they win every category. We love the strange totality, her humor, her timing, her contradictions, the look on her face when she's trying not to laugh. How passionate she becomes discussing something she cares about. The way she notices something nobody else notices. Her strength, her tenderness. The little pieces that could never have been created by trying to become the perfect woman. And this is exactly why the next mistake is so damaging. The moment you realize how much he matters, you may begin hiding the very woman he became attached to. And it rarely happens dramatically. It happens in tiny betrayals of yourself. You want to say something. You stop. You laugh loudly. Then remember where you are and lower yourself. He makes a comment you dislike. You smile anyway. You're passionate about something. He looks bored. Next time you speak about it less. You want affection. You decide, I don't want to seem needy. You disagree. Then soften it so much that your real position disappears. Every individual moment seems harmless, but stack enough of them together, and the woman living inside the relationship becomes increasingly different from the woman who entered it. This is where women sometimes say, "He changed." Maybe he did. Men change. Relationships change. But sometimes something else changed too. You stopped arriving fully. At first, he could feel you. Now he mostly experiences your adaptation. And adaptation can create comfort. But comfort without psychological aliveness eventually becomes background. You're there, reliable, loving, predictable. Yet something that once had voltage now feels domesticated. And I am not telling you relationships need constant drama. That's childish. Peace is valuable. Stability is valuable. The problem is not peace. The problem is self-erasure masquerading as peace. Those are completely different. Peace says, we can disagree and still be safe. Self-erasure says, I won't disagree because I need you to stay. Peace says, I trust the relationship enough to tell you what is true. Self-erasure says, I will hide what is true, so the relationship survives. One creates intimacy, the other creates distance while looking polite. And a man may not consciously know what's missing. He just feels something is different. The woman who used to have fire seems dimmer. The conversations become logistical. How was work? Fine. Did you pay that? Yes. What are we doing Saturday? Years pass like this. Then sometimes something wakes her up. Maybe she becomes 50. Her children need her less. She looks at her own life and thinks, where did I go? And something beautiful can happen. She starts coming back, not as rebellion, not because she wants to punish him. She starts reading again, seeing people, dressing for herself, speaking honestly. She returns to the part of her personality she buried because keeping everybody comfortable became more important than being known. And sometimes her husband looks at her differently, not because she purchased some seduction technique, because suddenly there is a woman in the room again, someone with interior movement. And if attraction still exists between them, that return can be incredibly powerful. He hears an opinion he hasn't heard in years. She laughs differently. Her attention isn't glued to him. She has something to tell him because she has been somewhere, physically or psychologically, that he wasn't. Curiosity returns. That's important. Devotion cannot grow where one person becomes completely psychologically consumed by the other. Because there's nothing left to encounter. Self-possession creates healthy separateness. You are mine to love, not mine to absorb. That is much more erotic and much more sustainable. But there's an even deeper moment. The moment when a man stops seeing your self-possession only as confidence and suddenly encounters the vulnerable human being underneath it. That's often where devotion becomes serious. And this is where people misunderstand vulnerability. They think vulnerability means telling a man every wound on the third date. No, that's disclosure. Sometimes healthy, sometimes premature. Vulnerability is something subtler. It's the moment where what is actually true becomes visible. Maybe you're usually composed. Then one evening you talk about your daughter and your voice changes. You don't perform sadness. You simply can't hide how much you love her. He sees it. Maybe you admit, "This actually scares me." No dramatic speech, just truth. Maybe you're discussing a dream you've postponed for 15 years and something comes alive in your face. He sees a woman who still wants things. Maybe you make a mistake. You laugh. "Okay, that was completely my fault. No defensiveness, no image management." That's vulnerability too. Or perhaps you genuinely break down one evening. Not because crying is a seduction strategy. Please don't turn it into one. Because the second you're thinking, "I need to show vulnerability so he bonds with me," you're performing again. The power is precisely that the moment is real. And if a good man sees you in one of those unguarded moments and something inside him moves closer rather than farther away, pay attention. Because now he isn't attached only to the polished version. He has seen some of the humanity underneath. And he stayed. That's where intimacy becomes serious. Through a Jungian lens, something important also happens here. At the beginning of intense attraction, we often project. He does it. You do it. He may see you as the answer to some unconscious image of femininity. You may see him as protection, rescue, validation. The man who proves you're still desirable after a painful marriage. Projection can feel intoxicating, but projection isn't mature love. Eventually, the fantasy must crack. He discovers you're not always calm, not always mysterious. You have wounds, bad moods, opinions he hates, history, needs, edges. Now comes the real test. Does he lose interest because you stopped matching his fantasy? Or does he become more attached because the real woman is more interesting than the projection? That is where devotion begins becoming adult. He no longer protects an ideal. He protects a relationship with a human being. And something changes in the way he looks at you. He doesn't only want to possess the experience. He wants to be worthy of participating in it. That's a sentence I want you to remember. A man who only desires you wants access. A man becoming devoted begins thinking about stewardship. How do I take care of this? How do I protect what exists here? How do I avoid becoming careless with something that matters? Maybe he doesn't use those words. Most men won't. You see it behaviorally. He starts repairing faster. He thinks about decisions in terms of us without erasing himself. He becomes more attentive to what hurts you. He wants your life to become larger, not smaller. He doesn't only enjoy your light. He stops punishing you for having a shadow. And importantly, your authenticity doesn't make him want to control you. It makes him want to know you more accurately. That's mature devotion, not ownership, not obsession, not, "I cannot survive without her." A man whose entire identity collapses without you isn't devoted. He's dependent. Devotion says, "I can live without you, but having truly known what exists between us, I do not want to treat it casually." That's far more powerful. And now we arrive at the part most women need. How do you actually live this? Because telling you be authentic is useless unless we make it concrete. And the shift starts in embarrassingly small places. Notice how frequently you edit yourself around a man you care about. Not because every thought deserves to be spoken. Maturity includes restraint. But ask, am I choosing restraint? Or am I disappearing because I'm afraid? Huge difference. You're about to send a message. You rewrite it 7 times. Why? To communicate clearly? Fine. Or because you're engineering exactly the amount of warmth that won't make him think you care too much? Now you're performing. You want to say, "I'd actually like to see you," but you type, "Maybe, we'll see, haha." Why? Because somewhere you learned that feminine value means never revealing desire first. That's not self-possession. That's fear wearing expensive clothes. A self-possessed woman can want someone and remain powerful. Her power does not depend on appearing less interested than she is. She can say, "I'd love to." And if he uses her openness against her, useful information, you've discovered something about him. That's better than spending 6 months presenting a fake woman he likes while wondering whether he would like you. Do the same with opinions. Stop reflexively saying, "Whatever you want." Sometimes you genuinely don't care. Fine. But when you do care, speak. What do you want for dinner? I want Italian. Tiny. But women who repeatedly suppress tiny preferences eventually lose access to larger ones. Then 5 years later, what do you want from this marriage? I don't know. Of course you don't. You've practiced not knowing. Recover preference, recover appetite, recover your yes and your no, and recover something else many women lose, your excitement. There is something incredibly attractive about an adult woman becoming genuinely animated by her own life. She starts talking about a trip, a book, her grandchildren, a business idea, gardening, painting, whatever it is. And suddenly you can see the girl she once was inside the woman she became. That aliveness matters, because a man doesn't only fall in love with how interested you are in him. He can become deeply attached to watching you become interested in life. That's the part women forget. You don't have to direct every ounce of feminine warmth toward the relationship. Let him observe you elsewhere, with friends, with your work, with beauty, with God, with music, with your family, with your private interests. A man should occasionally look at you and understand, her life contains rooms I did not build. That creates respect. And yes, mystery, but real mystery. Not hiding where you were, so he becomes anxious. Depth. There are still things about you he can discover because you are still discovering yourself. That's what keeps a person psychologically alive. And if you've been with the same man 25 years, this becomes even more important. Don't ask, "How can I make myself mysterious again?" That's ridiculous. He knows how you take your coffee. Instead, ask, "Where have I stopped becoming?" Maybe both of you have. Start there. Because the most magnetic woman isn't the woman who hides information. She's the woman whose life is still moving. New thoughts, new experiences, new layers. And self-possession also means allowing him to disappoint you. This sounds strange, but listen. If you cannot tolerate his disappointment without immediately reorganizing yourself to prevent it, you don't have a relationship. You have an emotional hostage situation. Sometimes he'll dislike your decision. Let him. Sometimes you set a boundary and he isn't happy. Okay. Sometimes you say, "No, I can't do that." And he becomes frustrated. A healthy bond can survive another person's temporary discomfort. You do not need to rescue everybody from feeling something unpleasant about you. That habit destroys self-possession. You become controlled by reactions, and a woman controlled by reactions eventually loses her center. Come back. You don't need to become harder. Become clearer. I love you, and this matters to me. I understand why you feel that way. My answer is still no. I want this relationship, but I don't want it at the cost of myself. That's feminine self-possession. Warm enough to love, strong enough to remain. And if that awakens something deeper in a good man, beautiful. But now we need to finish with the part that protects you from turning another powerful idea into another performance. The feminine trait that awakens devotion is not beauty, not obedience, not being sexually unavailable enough to keep him chasing, not being the perfect wife, not becoming endlessly peaceful so a man never has to experience discomfort. It's deeper. Self-possession. The woman whose inner life still belongs to her. She can love enormously, but she does not shrink in order to make love safer. She does not become emotionally blank because somebody called her intense. She does not hide every need because she's terrified of appearing needy. She does not slowly turn herself into the easiest woman a man has ever dated, and then wonder why nobody seems to know her. She allows herself to be encountered. And yes, that can awaken extraordinary devotion in a man who has the capacity for devotion. Because around her, something rare happens. He doesn't only experience pleasure, he experiences truth. He can feel another person standing there. A woman with her own center. And if he's psychologically mature enough, he doesn't experience that center as a threat. He respects it. He becomes curious about it. He protects the conditions that allow both people to remain fully alive inside the relationship. That's the devotion worth wanting. But listen carefully to this part. Your authenticity cannot manufacture maturity in a man who does not have it. You can be the most self-possessed woman he's ever met, and an emotionally unavailable man may still run. A narcissistic man may try to break your self-possession because he cannot control it. An immature man may call your boundaries difficult. A man who only wants convenience may prefer the edited version. Let him. Because the purpose of becoming fully yourself was never to make every man devoted. It is to make it impossible for the wrong relationship to require your disappearance. That's the real power. The wrong man may become less interested. Good. Now you know. The right man doesn't need you reduced in order to feel secure. He doesn't want a woman whose personality ends where his preferences begin. He wants to meet you. And the deeper the relationship becomes, the more you should become visible, not less. So if you've spent years becoming smaller because you thought smaller women were easier to keep, I want you to reverse the question. Don't ask, how much of myself can I show without losing him? Ask, why would I want to keep a relationship that can only survive when I hide? That's where something wakes up. Maybe you're 47, 53, 60. Maybe you've spent decades being appropriate, dependable, useful, good. And maybe you have forgotten the last time you felt completely alive inside your own personality. Go find that woman, not because a man needs her, because you do. Find the laugh you lowered, the opinion you stopped expressing, the dream you called unrealistic, the desire you decided was inappropriate, the clothes you thought you were too old to wear, the places you wanted to go, the part of you that somebody once called too much. Examine it. Maybe some of it needs maturity. Fine. But perhaps some of it was never too much. Perhaps it was simply too alive for environments that benefited from you becoming smaller. And when that woman returns, your relationships change. Some people come closer, others become uncomfortable. That's useful. You're finally giving people an opportunity to respond to you instead of the version engineered to keep everybody happy. And if a man looks at that woman, really looks at her, and feels something inside him change from, I want her, to, I want to take care of what exists between us, you will know the difference. Not because he becomes obsessed, because he becomes consistent. Not because he fears every man around you, because he stops behaving carelessly with your trust. Not because he worships you, because he values what the two of you have enough to participate in protecting it. That is devotion. And it begins with a woman making one internal decision. I will never again abandon myself in order to be loved. The beautiful paradox is that the moment you stop trying to become the woman a man cannot leave, you finally become the woman he can actually know. And being truly known, then consciously chosen, is far more powerful than being perfectly performed. So tonight, keep one sentence. The woman who belongs to herself can give love without disappearing inside it. Become her, not to make him devoted. Become her because she is the woman you were always supposed to come home to. And if a man is capable of meeting you there, let him. If this message spoke to something you've been carrying quietly, take a second to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And before you leave, choose one of the videos on your screen now. There may be something there that helps you understand what you're going through from a completely different angle. I'll see you there.